First, the United Nations Climate Summit in Glasgow, the one the Greenies claimed was the most crucial this century, draws to a close tomorrow. And poor old British PM Boris Johnson, well, if you've seen a picture of him lately, he's aged 20 years due to the fact the summit he hosted has failed to deliver the drastic promises and measures he was hoping for prior to the summit. In other words, it has been a fizzer. It produced plenty of hot air, we know that. The density of carbon dioxide on the air routes to Glasgow would have been thick from the squadrons of Learjets belching their way to, ironically, talk about saving the planet from CO2. We had an avalanche of alarmism from leaders and delegates, all claiming that climate change was killing humans already, although the data on that is rubbery in the extreme. And no one dared talk about the elephant in the room, or the elephant who wasn't in the room, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, leader of the biggest emitting nation on the planet. It's like having, I guess, a criminal trial without anyone in the dock. And this whole narrative about the rest of the world, not China, the rest of the world getting together to stop the temperature from rising is simply unscientific. It cannot happen without China. But today, the Chinese president made a belated and remote contribution to the summit. Second last day, co-signing a statement with Joe Biden, promising to strengthen climate action. She said the plan would involve concrete plans for enhanced action this decade. No changes, of course, to the plan that they have to meet a net zero target by 2060. Critically, it's bereft of any timelines. It's bereft of those concrete targets, as he was referring to. It's a series of unenforceable platitudes. Not even US climate envoy John Kerry sounded convinced.
That they will make best efforts to accelerate the work of phasing down. And I hope in the course of our work that it will become evident that that could be done much sooner.
They'll make best efforts. That could be done. The truth is, she was embarrassed into this symbolic and belated statement after Biden had criticised his non-attendance at the start of the summit. So did the world's greatest emitter, the one building 43 new coal-fired power stations, improve their commitment to reduce emissions? Not at all. Best endeavours. The world knows how much they fudge their emissions data anyway, so some would say, what was the point of any additional guarantees from China? There was also a push to force advanced economies to phase out coal in the 2030s, but that went up in smoke. China, India and the US, three of the top 5 emitters, well, they didn't sign up. What about the plan to cut methane emissions by 30% on 2020 levels by the end of the decade? Well, it won the support of more than 100 nations, but not Russia, China or India, which makes it close to useless. And a campaign to eliminate new car emissions also stalled, with the world's 2 biggest car makers, Toyota and Volkswagen, refusing to sign up. Another fail. Now, there'll be billions of dollars funnelled from Western nations into the coffers of developing and third world countries after Glasgow, though that never seems to fail. And those countries might use that money, for small reductions in carbon projects, but it won't change the temperature of the planet. Nor can Australia change the temperature of the planet. Even if we shut down all carbon-producing industries tomorrow, that we know from the mouth of the former chief scientist. Out of 10, I'd give Glasgow 3. It has been an unmitigated failure. And while Scott Morrison was kicked from pillar to post, especially from our own former Prime Ministers, for relying on technology to achieve net zero, well, hold your horses. His plan might be the only practical way forward. And I say that because climate economist Bjorn Lomborg certainly thinks so.
You're not going to be able to go to net zero without dramatically new innovation. But if we innovated a new technology that was cheaper than fossil fuels, everyone would switch. The Chinese, the Indians, not just rich, well-meaning Australians.
Bjorn has always said research and development, R&D, research and development. It was scientific technology in the form of vaccines that created a way for us to arm ourselves against scores of serious diseases in the last century, and even as recently as COVID-19. A myriad of medical discoveries have increased the world's human mortality twofold in just a couple of hundred years. The tyranny of distance, it's been removed with the invention of wireless technology and the internet. Even the computer age of the 80s took our knowledge, our education and ambitions beyond any comprehension. And our productivity, due to advances in agriculture and heavy industry, has delivered wealth and opportunity to billions of people around the world. Now, it might be a difficult concept to model new technology, but maybe the Australian PM is closer to the truth of what will eventually be in dealing with climate change than anyone else who turned up at this CO2 talkfest.